Hey everybody, this is going to be a presentation, just a short presentation to help you get started on your first EAL assignment. So I'm going to walk through some of the basics, the research basics that we talked about, plus a little bit more to help you be able to answer the actual questions. And then I'm going to walk you through the directions of the assignment itself. So while you are watching this, you might as well go ahead and open up the EAL worksheets. And the one that I've attached to this presentation is a PDF version. I'm going to upload a version that can be edited in Moodle for you. So the evidence analysis library assignments that you're going to complete this semester are going to be dealing with this worksheet. And you're going to be filling out portions of it for each assignment. So this evidence analysis worksheet was created based on the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics evidence analysis worksheet. So what they do for their EAL library, if they've created a question, they have a team of people who gather all of the relevant literature and evidence, and they have a team that goes through those articles and gives them quality ratings, and those are the types of things you should learn in that EAL tutorial. But while they're giving articles quality ratings, the way they do that is through this worksheet. So you guys this semester are going to get practice in evaluating research. So we're going beyond just being able to read it and trying to understand it. But you're going to start evaluating research to understand if it's a really good quality study and what that means as far as the field of evidence on a specific topic. So just to walk you through the evidence analysis worksheet, like I said, we're going to be breaking this up into different parts this semester. But the citation, which we're going to talk about today, you fill in here, the study design. We mentioned that briefly, but I'm going to go over that again today. This quality rating, which you see positive, negative, or neutral, this is the rating that the reviewer, who is you in this case, will give the article once they've completed this entire form and answered the questions on the back. Okay, so there's some relevance questions and some validity questions that help you to give a positive, negative, or neutral rating to the specific article. The research purpose, which you see here, is basically answering what is the author's question, what was the whole point of them conducting this research study, okay? Inclusion and exclusion criteria are not going to be on this assignment, but just to get you thinking about it, there are specific criteria that the researchers will implement for including participants or including studies that they analyze in their own research study. So inclusion and exclusion criteria are really important because they help to make sure that the evidence that's being collected is actually meaningful to the research question. So, for example, if you were going to conduct a study about, let's see, how much candy affects the behavior of toddler-age children, and if you were just going to do a meta-analysis, which means that you're going to collect data or research that's already been done to see if there are any results that are similar enough for you to make like a practice guideline or something like that. So if you included, or if your question was about the behaviors based on how much sugar toddlers eat, right? So you would want to be looking for articles that can help you answer that question. So you would include articles that, or research studies that have been conducted that look at sugar or candy consumption among specifically toddler age, and you would want to make sure that those articles or those research studies looked at outcomes such as behavior. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to your research question to include a study that doesn't look at the outcome of behavior of those toddlers after they eat candy, but instead looks at weight gain or dental caries. That wouldn't make sense. That doesn't help to answer your question. So that's why inclusion and exclusion criteria are important, because they tell the researcher what is going to be relevant and what is not going to be relevant. Beyond that, we're going to talk about the description of study protocol, the data collection summary, and the sample data information a little bit later. So I'll show you specifically what you're going to be doing for this assignment, but I'm just walking you through each of this. So, and it's important for me to say that this first page of the worksheet is you simply pulling information that's provided in the study, in the article that you've read, and putting this into the worksheet, because these help you to answer the validity and the relevance questions on the back. So your summary of results, this would be what were the key findings, what are the super important findings that came about from the study, and maybe some other findings that weren't anticipated or expected, or maybe they weren't the actual purpose of the study, but this is something that the authors mentioned as pretty interesting, but they didn't necessarily look for that outcome. So it's interesting to know that sometimes you'll read a research study and maybe the results don't exactly match the conclusion, or maybe the conclusion that the author comes to can't exactly be made based on the evidence that they provide. So this could be due to several reasons. Bias could be one of them. But these are important to identify, because we want to make sure that whenever an author writes a research article, that they're giving you the information and they're basing conclusions on that information and on that information alone. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. So you are going to look at the summary. You're gonna summarize the results, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then you're going to fill out this reviewer comment section. So the reviewer comments are going to focus, in this class, they're going to focus more on why was this study important, and is it meaningful? Should they have done it? Do we need more studies? What are we going to do with this information? And then last blank right here is the funding source. This is another important thing to always look for in the research that you're reading, because funding could introduce bias to research studies as well. So for instance, if a large study was done on the consumption of high fructose corn syrup, and the results revealed that high fructose corn syrup had absolutely no association with weight gain or diabetes, or say high fructose corn syrup consumption was perfectly fine. Well, what if it came out that a manufacturer of high fructose corn syrup, or Coca-Cola or something, sponsored that research? That might be a little bit fishy, So it's important for us to be able to identify funding source, because it could introduce a little bit of bias. So we will look at the second page a little bit later in the study, a little bit later in the semester. But basically what you're going to be doing is answering these relevance and validity questions based on what you fill out in the on the first page. So you're not going to have to score this first article or in this first assignment, but it would be really good practice for you to answer those questions that are on the second page. So just coming back to a couple of the basics of research that we talked about, this is looking at your independent, your dependent, control, and confounding variables. You won't have to identify variables in this assignment, but this is important for you to be able to pick out. So definitely think about this as you're reading the article that you're going to be doing for this assignment, because you're going to have to do this, I think, on the next assignment. So be sure that you're able to start picking those out. And if you aren't able to, let me know and we can go over this again. So this is going to be important to this EAL assignment. Remember we talked about how there's a hierarchy of study design, and it's important that we have different methods of coming to conclusions, because some of the studies that are lower in this hierarchy can really set the stage and show the need for more sophisticated study designs. So say a doctor has a really interesting patient who has a condition that isn't really well known, and they try this seemingly safe but maybe different treatment for some of the symptoms that this patient is experiencing. And say the patient has good outcomes with that treatment. So that practitioner may publish a case study or a case series if it's a few different patients to provide some information about the symptoms that were experienced, the treatment that was provided, and the outcomes. So maybe this is a diagnosis that isn't well known or well researched, when we can't have, primary research studies where we're doing randomized controlled trials or clinical trials, because we just don't know enough about that specific disease state or condition or treatment. We can start at a basic level with these case studies. So if the case study looks promising, more people in that field may try that intervention and do their own type of cohort study, or eventually enough research can support a randomized controlled trial or a clinical trial to help with that treatment or that condition. So all of these forms of study designs eventually will lead up to a bunch of evidence that is available in a certain field or on a certain topic. And at that point, researchers can collect all of these different studies, read all of these articles that are published, and from that they can draw more wide-scale conclusions about that specific topic, and that can set the base for or set the foundation for clinical practice guidelines. So while the gold standard for research is this randomized controlled trial, and they help to sort of form the basis for systematic reviews and clinical practice guidelines, each of these study designs has an important role in establishing a good base of evidence, of well-rounded evidence on a specific topic. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. So let's see. Our randomized controlled trial, this is what, like I said, our gold standard. So clinical trial would be something like this. A double-blinded controlled trial would be the best, like a placebo-blinded, where the researcher nor the participant know if they have the treatment or if they don't. A review is where the researchers will collect evidence that's already available and analyze that collection of evidence to maybe create a guideline or a specific practice on that topic. Okay, so the last thing that I really want to talk about is how to cite an AMA format. So this semester, and I think in the rest of your dietetics classes, you're going to be using AMA format, which is the American Medical Association. The reason that we use this format style is because this is what the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics recognizes in their own journals. So you're going to use AMA, and right now is the perfect time for you to learn it and get the hang of it, because you're going to keep using it in your classes. So today we're going to focus on how to cite an article. We're not going to talk about in-text citations quite yet. An in-text citation is how you would give credit to an author or researchers in your own writing, like the body of your paper. That would be an in-text citation. But what we're going to talk about today is how you cite that article in your list of references at the end of your paper. So for AMA formatting, the authors are going to come first. You're going to capitalize the first letter of their last name and then their first and second initial. If the article doesn't provide their middle name, you can just put their first initial. So it could look like this as well. So there aren't any periods after the initials. There's no comma after their last name. So mine would not read Gobert, Allison. It would be Gobert A, Sloan E, Foray S, period. So we are just going to list out all of the authors at this point, and we'll tweak that a little bit later. So authors' names go first. No punctuation between them other than a comma between the full name. The next thing that is written is the journal article title. Okay, so the journal article title and the academic journal name are two different things. So the journal article title is the title of the article, whereas the academic journal name is what that article is published in. So the key thing about AMA formatting is that the journal article title is only capitalized in that first word, okay? So say that the journal article title is called Write Name of Journal Title here. Only W in Write is capitalized, okay? So period goes at the end of the journal article title, and then next is the actual academic journal name. So this is the publication name. So the academic journal is all capitalized. The first letter of each word is capitalized, and it's written in italics. So that's what you see here. So pretend that the academic journal name is Write Academic Journal Name like this. You see that each word is capitalized, the first letter, and it's italicized and ends with a period. Okay, so the last information that you're going to cite is the publication year, the volume number, the edition, and page numbers. Something I want you to notice is that all of this is written back to back. There's a purpose that there's no space before or after the semicolon, and there's no space after or before this colon here. There's no space before or after these parentheses, and there's an immediate space. That is on purpose, and that is how AMA styling is done. So we have to be sure to do that the same. So publication year will go here, and then you'll write a semicolon, and then volume number. The edition number will be in parentheses, colon, page numbers, period. So I've provided an example down at the bottom. This is a screenshot of an article that I read this week. So you see the author's name here. This is the journal article title. This is the academic journal name, the public where this was published in. Here you have the volume number, the edition number, and the publication year. And because of this is being a small screenshot, the page numbers aren't here, so we're just going to pretend that these are the page numbers. Okay, so there's only one author, so we're going to have Randolph JJ, period, because they give us his first and middle initial. So Randolph JJ, period, a guide to writing the dissertation review. Okay, so notice only A is capitalized. Then we have Practical Assessment, Research, and Evaluation. This is the name of the academic journal. So notice every word, first letter is capitalized, and the journal, the academic journal name is italicized. Okay, we have a period after that. And then immediately we have the publication year, which is 2009, which is immediately followed by a semicolon, the 14 for the volume number, which is immediately followed by the parentheses, which is 13 for the edition number, and then that is immediately followed by a colon, and we're just going to pretend that these are the page numbers. Okay, so the page numbers are going to be separated by this dash, but there's no space before or after the dash. and then finally a period at the very end. Okay, so for this assignment, you are going to read the article that's titled Self-Weighing and Weight Management, a Systematic Literature Review. You are going to cite the article, and that is worth 3 points. And then you're going to identify the study design, the research purpose, and the funding source, and that's worth a total of 12 points. The study design, you're going to tell me what kind of study is it, and if you look at the hierarchy of research slide, that may help you identify which type of study it is. For the research purpose, I want you to tell me what is the question that the author is trying to answer with their own study. And then you're going to identify the funding source. It may not be applicable, there may not be a funding source, but it's important to be able to identify whether or not there is one, and if there is one, then who is it? Next, you're going to summarize the article for 5 points. So you're going to read the entire article. After you've identified the information above, you're going to tell me about the study in a minimum of 300 words. So you're going to say who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who did the study? Who was in the study? What was the study about? When did the study take place? How long did it take place? Where did it happen? And why did they do it? And how did the study, how was the study conducted? What did the researchers do? And how did they come to those conclusions? And then lastly, you are going to complete the reviewer comment section. So you're going to tell me your own opinions, okay? So you're going to read the article, you're going to write that summary, and then you're going to reflect on that and think about the evidence that's provided. So do you think it's a good study? Is the topic of the study meaningful, and what do the results say about what we need to do? How will that information be applied? Like, what are the next steps? If there's not enough evidence at this point, then what should future research studies look to do? Look to change, or look to find out that we still haven't found out yet. So these are the directions for your first EAL assignment. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. But I will attach the article, what you're going to fill out and turn in. And I think we're going to not worry about putting it in the actual evidence analysis worksheet just yet, since we're not filling it out completely. I'm going to give you a formatting guideline to follow so that it makes it easier for you. So just remember to submit this as a PDF document, and that just helps me to grade your work and also provide you better comments and feedback on your submission. So that's all I have for today. If y'all have any questions, send me an email. And I'll be able to get back to you.